Do you love cooperative games? Well, what about if you have a game where it's cooperative for everybody except for one person? Do you like being that one person that makes everybody else lose? Well, if that's the case, then I have the perfect game for you because we're going to be reviewing Shadows over Camelot. So, Shadows over Camelot is a cooperative game where you are trying to commit heroic deeds in order to stop the progression of evil across Camelot. But you better be careful because there might be a traitor amongst you. You will be playing as one of the figures from King Arthur's court. You can see here, this is your player board. You keep track of your health with this little six-sided die here. You can kind of turn it over as you gain and lose health. Each character has a special ability. So, for instance, King Arthur, once per turn you may exchange one white card face down with another knight of your choice. That's actually a really good ability because you're trying to play certain cards and there's not that many ways of gifting cards to other players. It's really one of the better powers in the game. If, as you can see on the back of the player mat, you have the traitor side. This only gets revealed if you either reveal yourself or you are accused and forced to reveal yourself. In the beginning of the game, people get dealt out one of their loyalty cards, and you can see there is a traitor card. If you are dealt the traitor card, that means you have to play the game as the traitor. You are trying to get through the game without revealing yourself as the traitor because you get an extra bonus at the end being able to flip two of the swords from white to black, which can help you clinch the game without the other players even knowing. But worst comes to worst, if you do get revealed or you reveal yourself, you get some special abilities. You can discard white cards from players' hands, and you can also add siege engines and draw and play the top black card. You get some special abilities on here if you have Lancelot's armor. So it can be kind of fun to play as the actual revealed traitor too. So, seeing that this is a cooperative game, even though it has a traitor mechanic, what are the win conditions and lose conditions of the game, and what's your objective? So we can see here the game is lost if 12 siege engines surround Camelot, or 7 black swords sit on the round table, or all knights are dead, traitor accepted. Game is won if there are 12 or more swords on the round table and the majority of them are white. So nice simple win condition and 3 possible loss conditions. You can see that this game can be a little bit hard just because of that, because there's a lot more ways to lose than to win. So how do you achieve either the win or loss conditions in this game? I'm going to go through the progression of your turn. We're going to start off with the progression of evil. You can either draw 1 black card and play it, add 1 siege engine to Camelot, or lose 1 life point. Now I'm going to go through each one of those individually. The progression of evil step always comes before the heroic action, so you're basically choosing how the evil is spreading across the land. Your first choice is to draw 1 black card and play it. So, you will have a deck of black cards in this spot right here, and you will have to just draw 1 and play it regardless of what it is. So I'm just going to go through some of the normal ones here. So you have a few that are very similar to each other. So this is Saxon and Picts. These each force you to place either a Saxon or a Pict on one of the corresponding quests here. So you have to place them down in these locations. And then the mercenary, you choose which one you play out of those. You have Excalibur, which is going to move your little Excalibur standee further towards the losing side, towards the ice here. And once it gets all the way there, you lose Excalibur, you lose the quest, you can't gain it anymore. And that's bad. We have the Lancelot or Dragon cards. These get laid onto your either Lancelot or Dragon quest. And once you fill that up, you have to compare your white cards versus the cards that have been played here, and to see which side wins. Either you win or you lose the quest. Once the quest has been completed, it flips over, and on the other side is the dragon side. So it starts out on the Lancelot, and then it goes to the dragon, which is going to be harder. We have a Black Knight card, which is similar to the Lancelot card, except it goes here. You're going to be trying to play 2 pairs of cards that equal to more than these 4 Black Knight cards. Once the 4 Black Knight cards lay down here, you have to reveal them and the quest gets compared. So you want to make sure that you get that done before it fills up. And then you have the despair cards. Despair cards start getting played here. And as they fill up, if they get all the way to the other side, you lose your Holy Grail and you lose the quest, which is never good. You have to play Holy Grail cards from the other side in order to win the quest. But the despair cards can cover up your Holy Grail cards, so you might have to play extra ones. As we were just talking about the different quest types where you could lose items, I just wanted to go show you the little standees here. So this is Lancelot's armor. That's what you're fighting for on this quest. Here is the Holy Grail, and that is what you were fighting for on this quest. And this is Excalibur. That's what you're fighting for here. The only one that really moves during the quest is Excalibur, because it'll move one way or the other based on what's getting played. So if an Excalibur card gets played from the bad deck, this card right here, it moves this direction. But on the other side, you can have heroes that are able to discard cards to move it back towards this. If it gets to there, then the player who played that card gets the Excalibur. So while we're on the topic of black cards, I wanted to go over some of the special bad cards that are in the deck. So we have cards in here that when you draw them, they can only be negated by playing 3 Merlin cards together. We're getting more into Merlin cards once we start talking about the heroic deck. But they do a lot of bad things. So like this one requires an extra card to complete the Saxon or Pict quest and makes you add an additional one. This one prevents you from playing Merlin cards until a quest is victoriously completed. This one makes you lose life points. This one is similar, but it makes you lose cards. This one makes you forfeit quests and summons you back to Camelot. This one makes you lose an additional or gain an additional black sword, which is bad towards your loss condition every time you lose a quest. So these are ones that you really want to try to avoid. And since there's only a limited amount of Merlins and you have to play 3 in order to negate these, you really have to kind of balance that out versus, you know, what you could be losing when each one of these comes up. None of them are good though. Your other choices in the progression of evil phase are going to be either adding a siege engine. So the siege engine would go into one of these spots here that's outlined for it. And if you fill up all those spots, then the good side loses automatically once the last one is placed. Or you have your your life counter here and you lose 1 life. You choose to sacrifice some of your blood to allow evil to still progress, but not really to hurt the rest of your teammates or the game. But if you do die, then, you know, that's a bad thing. Now that we've talked about what the bad guys can do, let's talk about what the good guys can do. I'm going to put that guy there so I can demonstrate some things that you can do. First, I want to go over what kind of cards you have access to. So, in the white deck, which is what you're going to want to draw from, it's got all your good cards, you have primarily these fight cards, which are ranging from 1 to 5, and they'll be used to form pairs or sequences or get discarded in order to try and get Excalibur, but to complete the quest. And I'll get into specific heroic actions and playing cards in a little bit. The other card that you have in here is a Grail card, and this is used to lay onto the Holy Grail track to try and cover it all up, get to the other side, win the Holy Grail. You also have some special cards. Just like you had special cards in the bad deck, you have special cards in the good deck. First one I want to go over is Merlin. He's going to be probably your most important one. Allows you to remove 1 siege engine, or allows you to get rid of the last standard black card played on a quest of your choice, which is kind of nice. so you can make it to get rid of a card. And if you play 3 of them together, they can negate one of those special black cards, which can really mess your game up. You also have a bunch of other cards here that have a bunch of different effects that allow you to draw cards or trade cards or give life points. There's a lot of stuff that you can do here, and these are really good to get. So after the progression of evil, you get to do these heroic actions. Now we're going to get into some specific things that you're able to do. I'm going to cover the simple ones first, and then I'll go back to do the quest specific ones afterwards. So your options are, you are allowed to choose one. Depending on the conditions for using your special power, you might be able to use it as a heroic action, or you might be able to choose it once per turn. It'll be specifically stated there. But heroic action, first one is move to a new quest. So you can be in Camelot. Why would you want to be in Camelot? Being in Camelot doesn't allow you to actually complete any quests while you're there, but it allows you to draw cards. If you're in Camelot, you can draw 2 cards, and there's no limit to the amount of cards that you can have in your hand, but if you have 12 cards in your hand, you're not allowed to draw any more cards. So once you have 12, you might want to leave Camelot. So moving to a new quest. So you want to move, let's say he wants to go here. You got to go to one of these spaces. So this is a group quest. It has multiple spaces here. You'll see the little symbols where you can stand. And there's multiple ones there. It means multiple people can be there to try and complete that quest. You have ones like this. This is the Lancelot one. This is a single person quest. You're not allowed to have another person there. You see another example of a single person quest is the Black Knight quest there. So it's based on how many symbols are in the quest. Another option that you have is you can play one of your special white cards. So you can't just play fight cards or things like that, or Holy Grail cards. But you can play special cards on your turn as your heroic action. After that, you have the option to heal yourself. So this is your health. We talked about that before. So say you're at 1 health. Let's go to 1. Say you're at 1 health. You're really hurt, and you want to heal yourself up. You can discard 3 identical cards. So either 3 fight cards that have the same value, or Holy Grail, 3 Holy Grail cards, something like that. You can discard them, and that allows you to turn your life points up to the next number. Beyond healing, you can also accuse one knight if they are a traitor. So you can think, I think you're the traitor, and they have to reveal themselves, and then they have to flip their board over. You can only accuse someone after you have 6 swords or 6 siege engines on the board, so you can't just do it like right off the bat. You also have the ability to perform an additional action, which can come in handy, but it comes at a price. You have to sacrifice 1 life point in order to do that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a little bit into the specific quests and what you have to do for them. So since we are standing at the Black Knight quest, let's go over that one first. What you're going to be doing is when these cards, the Black Knight cards, come up in the progression of evil phase, you're going to lay them down on the quest here. Once 4 of them come out, then you're going to have to turn over whatever white cards that have been played, and you have to see what the total is and which one wins. If you draw one and you choose to play it face down, nobody will be able to see what the value is. You'll know what it is. Might raise a few eyebrows considering there's potential traitor in the game, but it allows you to draw a white card for free by playing it down, which is kind of nice. So it's one of the few ways to get cards into your hand when you're not in Camelot. Actually, the only way to get cards into your hand besides special cards when you're not in Camelot. And while you're there, you're going to want to be playing 2 pairs of cards. So here you go. Like you'll play this turn after turn, and then eventually you'll complete it. So say you're going to want to try and get the pairs played out before this gets to 4. So you flip them over. So we right now have a total of 6. And this gets flipped over. That's also a 1. So it's 6-2. That means this quest is victorious. You return to Camelot, and the knight that was standing there gets 1 white sword placed on the round table. They get 3 cards as a reward, and they get +1 health, which is kind of nice. So you want to kind of win those quests. So let's take our guy and move him over to the Holy Grail Quest. This is a group quest. You can have multiple people on it, but the object of this quest is obviously to win, but also to get the actual Holy Grail, which is this little guy right here. And that has some special abilities. You can see that having the Holy Grail, any knight who drinks from the Grail gains 4 life points, discard after use. So it says dying knight, so that means when a knight dies, they can actually drink from this and it prevents them from dying, which is nice. So what you're going to play here is you're going to try and play these Grail cards. So if you have these in your hand, you set them down as a heroic action. You're in a race against the despair cards. So every time a despair card is drawn, you play them down like this. And it's a race to which side gets to the other side first. As you play Grail cards, so let's say, as you play enough Grail cards, you can actually cover up the despair cards and get to the other side. But they can do the same thing where the despair cards can cover up the Grail cards. So you got to be careful. You can have some wasted effort there if you have a lot of despair cards coming out. So once you get to the other side, this one's a big one. You get 3 of the white swords. You get 7 cards that are split among the knights that are there. You guys kind of have to make an agreement. If not, they're shuffled and randomly dealt out. And +1 health to the knights that help complete it. But it's also a biggie if you lose, because you get 3 black swords, as you can see right there. And you lose 1 health. All of the quest rewards and punishments are all listed right on each individual quest. Let's go over the Excalibur Quest. So say you're on the Excalibur Quest, it's another group quest. You have your fight cards in your hand, or you have any cards in your hand, and every time you discard a card as a heroic action, on your turn, you move your Excalibur a little bit closer. We touched on that before, but this is just kind of going over it in a specific sense. What you are competing against is the Excalibur cards. So this will move the Excalibur this way every time one of these comes up. So you don't want to ignore this because Excalibur has a pretty nice effect. Add +1 to any combat you participate in. Discard Excalibur to counter any 1 black card just drawn. So that's a nice little boon to get. Now let's go over Lancelot. So in Lancelot, you're going to want to play cards that form a full house. That's 3 of a kind on one side and 2 of a kind on the other, or a pair on the other side. So just like with the Black Knight, this is a singular quest. Only one person could be on it. And you're going to be playing these Lancelot or Dragon cards, depending on which side is which. And they get played. If you play them face down, you get to draw a card. If you play them face up, then you don't get to draw a card, but everybody gets to see what they are. These are going to be harder to beat cards than the Black Knight card, so you really want to try and get this played down as quickly as possible and as few of these as possible. But same kind of principle. If you actually end up winning that quest, you get the benefits for having the armor of Lancelot, which means anytime you must draw 1 black card, draw 2 instead, play 1, and place the other back under the black draw pile. So that's a really good ability that's helped us out playing and winning this game a lot, because it allows you to kind of scout out those special cards. Also, if you have quests that you're close to potentially losing, it allows you to choose which one's going to come out. So like if you're close to losing the Excalibur or the Holy Grail or one of the Saxoner picks, and one of those comes out plus something that's okay to play, that's not in as bad of a position, you can play that one and put the other one underneath, which is really nice. So once Lancelot is finished, you flip the board over and you have to fight the dragon. The dragon is going to be harder to beat, but it is a group quest. But it is going to be harder to beat. You already probably got that, or maybe you didn't. And you have to play 3 of a kind in 3 sets. So it's a little bit harder to get, but because you can get help, it kind of counterbalances it. But since these are a lot stronger, so you can see here for the Lancelot side, this is a 5. For the dragon, it's a 9. So a couple of those coming down, that's going to be really hard to beat, depending on what you're playing as your 3 of a kind. The best you can do with 3 of a kind per set is 5s, but it's gonna be rough if you get a lot of cards out there on the board. In this case, you get 2 black swords for losing, 2 white swords for winning, split 7 cards among the people who are on it, plus 2 health, but you also lose 2 health if you lose. So that's a rough one, definitely. The last set of quests we're going to go over, I'm going to go over together because they're the same type of quest. You have the Saxons and the Picts quest, which are these 2 here on opposite sides of the main board. And these interact with the Saxon and Picts card and the Mercenaries cards here, where you have to play them down. Every time you draw one, you have to play one of the corresponding Saxon or Picts. And once there's 4, the war is lost. So in this case, you have to play down cards in order. So you have to play down the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You have to kind of coordinate this one to make sure that it goes down in the right order. But the bad thing about this one is if you lose, you only get 1 black sword, lose 1 health, but you also gain 2 catapults, which can really be bad towards the end of the game, because in my experience, towards the end of the game, you're going to be functioning between you're going to be functioning between like 9 and 10 catapults, so that could theoretically lose you the game if you're going to be kind of hovering towards that higher number if you're not doing a lot of fighting of catapults. Now that I've mentioned fighting catapults, let's go over one last location-specific action you can do, and that's when you're in Camelot here. You are able to fight siege engines. So these are your catapults, siege engines, and they get placed on the board, and you are able to discard cards in your hand to then have a shot to go up against the siege engine. So say you want to live a little dangerously. We're going to go discard 1, 2, and 3 here, so that gives us a 6. And once you've discarded those cards, that's your attack power, and then you roll this die to see what the siege engine does. And he rolled a 5. So the siege engine rolled a 5. You discarded 6. That means you defeated the siege engine, and it comes off the board. Say the siege engine rolled a 7. That's more than your 6. Even if it rolled a 6, because it can't be tied either. So 6 or higher, if it rolls, then you lose 1 health and the siege engine stays in place, and you lose the cards that you played. So sometimes it's really important to fight siege engines because you don't want too many of them to pile up on the board. But you do have to make sure that you're discarding enough cards. So like a lot of times what I'll do is I'll discard like 8 or 9 if I can get away with it, just because I don't want to run the risk of the siege engine just negating my discarded cards and staying on the board anyway. So that's pretty much it. You're going to be going around completing quests. Hopefully you're passing them and laying out swords of different colors onto the round table. So white swords if you win, black swords if you lose. If you're loyal, you're wanting to make sure that once all of the swords are laid out, you have more white swords than black swords. But if you have a traitor in the game, the traitor makes it all the way to the end when the last sword is laid down and they haven't revealed themselves or been accused, then 2 of those swords turn from white to black. So you could go through thinking that you won the game and then end up losing it in the long run. But that's pretty much it. Now I'm going to meet you back up top, and I'll give you my final thoughts on the game. I like this game. It's a fun game that's easy to teach when you really boil it down. It's not the easiest game to understand by just reading the rule book, but once you have a grasp of it, it's easy for you to explain to other people, which is not as easy as something that you could just pick up a rule book and learn really quickly. But if you understand the game and you can explain it in better words than the rule book does, considering this has 2 rule books, it doesn't have just one. It has the regular rule book and then it has the book of quests. So you have 2 rule books, one that specifically explains the quest and one that explains all the mechanics. There's a fair amount of mechanics to it, but it's nothing overwhelming that you can't explain in 10 minutes or so, maybe 15. And the general things that you can do on your turn, really easy to understand. I like the artwork. It's kind of a mixture of like a realistic and a cartoony art style. I've never been the biggest fan of Arthurian legend in general, just because I feel like it's kind of overplayed. But this one does a good job of having enough theme in it. I mean, it's obviously steeped in a theme. Everything is geared around kind of the theme behind it, but it doesn't like slam you in the face with it where the theme really matters. You could reflavor this to be pretty much anything. You can make it Eldritch Horror, which is Eldritch like kind of thing, which is like Call of Cthulhu and things like that. You can flavor it to that. You can make it vampires. You can make it werewolves. You can make it a lot of different things, and the mechanics are fine. The mechanics aren't really geared towards the theme, but this one's fine. I would like to see a Shadows over something else, which would be kind of cool to reflavor it. And if it was a cool theme, I'd repurchase this game, even though this game's a little bit expensive. I like traitor mechanic games. I always liked Dead of Winter. That's another fun game. But this one probably has the traitor mechanic in the best way, because the traitor, if they're good at being a traitor, and it's balanced fairly well, if they're good at being a traitor, you could go through the whole game and just on the last move mess everybody up, because you get those extra 2 black swords that convert if you manage to get through the whole game. And you can pretty much, the game's hard enough that you can pretty much play the game seeming like you're trying to win it throughout the whole thing as a loyal knight, and still end up losing in the end, and you as a traitor didn't really even have to do much. I feel like every time we've played the game, I've been the traitor, I believe almost every time we've had a traitor in the game. But you always get to the point where, regardless of whether there's a traitor or not, you're kind of hovering on the edge of having enough siege engines. So, like, you'll be at 11 siege engines or 10 siege engines, and because you can just add them as a progression of evil, you could literally get to the end of the game and you're hovering right there, and it's like, oh, if we get one more siege engine, and you as the traitor can just put that last siege engine on there, or draw that last card and drop for the picks to make them add the siege engines. It's really easy to kind of throw the quests without really raising any suspicion, because the quests are hard in general. It's a generally hard game, but once you kind of know how to play it, you can work your way through it. So in terms of this kind of mechanic that I'll recommend, I'd probably recommend this game over Dead of Winter, just because I think it's easier for people to understand and play, even though I like Dead of Winter better. But I think this one does a good job with the cooperative aspect with a traitor, and that is something that's fairly unique. I mean, there's stuff out there, obviously, but that's still a unique enough mechanic that I would definitely recommend this game. Probably like a 4 out of 5 if I was going to be giving it a number score. Definitely go out and pick yourself up a copy. It's a little bit expensive, but I think it's well worth it. You get a lot out of it. I've played it in a lot of mixed groups, that even ones that aren't particularly strong gamers, they still like this game. And anybody who likes Arthurian legend, this is a big game for them. So if you like what you saw here on the channel today, please hit that like button. Let us know that you like it. Leave a comment down below. What's your favorite traitor mechanic game? Or if you want to go beyond that, what's your favorite cooperative game in general? Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of the game reviews coming up. Hit that notification bell so you know what's up, and I'll catch you in the next one.